the new Arkansas bill. It's called the Heartbeat Bill. It finally brings abortion down to 12 weeks or less. Do you agree? Is it enough? That's today, live on Whatever Mac Wants to Talk About.
Let's get it started. Ha! Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Ha! Let's get it started in here. Yeah.
Let's get it started in here.
Welcome to The View from a Pew, a conversation among Christians who are out to grow their faith by asking the simple questions, the tough questions, and the stuff you really wish your pastor would talk about. Come on now, let's reason together. It's your voice we want to hear. The phone lines are open, so join the conversation. Call 855-244-0077. That's 855-244-0077. Now, here's your host, J. Michael McCoy.
All right, welcome. It's a Friday. Fridays are 15% more fun, although the fun that we love to have on Fridays is not here today. Maddie Smith is, like everybody else at one time or another this summer or this winter, came down with the flu or the cold or whatever that is. So Maddie's not here with us today. Army Brad got a job. That's funny. People hang out here if they don't have jobs. Army Brad got a great job, so he's doing his job. So I don't know if he'll be back on the radio again, maybe on a holiday or something.
Now, wait a minute. I have a job, and I'm here.
That's true. We all have jobs. Do you have a job?
I don't know. Do you call this a job?
No, beyond this, though.
I have stuff to do.
Yeah, I think maybe Bob, you, and I don't know. I guess I really don't have a job either. Out of the three of us, I don't. I mean,
well, don't you? Aren't you into real estate business stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always working on
When's
something.
the last time Max sold a house?
I don't know. I don't keep track.
Well, it's managing the properties that we have.
Yeah, well, I mean, I have a salon that I have to take care of, and I've got
sweep up dead hair.
I do. I make dead hair sometimes because I make hair extensions. Like tonight, I'm going to spend my whole night actually making hair extensions.
So, like a girly man, you sit around and like weave hair together.
Well, I use it's a keratin compound that I'll take and I'll put on the tip of the hair, and then I'll roll it up like a bead of rice, basically.
Okay.
And then you trim the top off of it and you put it in the pile. That's what I do. It's pretty monotonous, but I do it better than the companies that we used to buy hair from.
Is it human hair?
Yeah, it's human hair. We get it from this particular hair I'm working with today comes from Russia, which is it's kind of interesting. It isn't very View from the Pew, but it is Whatever Mac Wants to Talk About day.
Yes, it is.
So we get it from Russia, and we have to actually have it shipped through a company that verifies that it wasn't taken from the mafia out in Russia. So they actually have like things that let us know that they're not mafia related, because a lot of the hair industry in Russia is actually run by mobsters, and they will force people to give them their hair, or like they're illegal traffickers, they're sex traffickers and stuff like that. They'll shave their heads.
Are they scalped for?
I mean, they're not literally scalped. I mean, they're just shaved because it grows back. So it's a never ending. It's a replenishable money stream.
Right.
And so we want to make sure A, we're not getting that hair. A, because I think it's unethical, and B, because it's usually they use a lot of drugs and stuff like that, and that's not healthy hair. And so we want to get first rate premium hair, and so we have to pay premiums for it and get certain guarantees that it's not.
Now, I had a ponytail down to the middle or beyond that of my back. And when I cut it off, I saved it, and that's been 16 years. Would that be still good?
I have no idea how long this hair sits. That's a good question for Dawn. She would probably tell you.
You consider the hair dead? Is that correct?
Yeah, hair is dead.
The hair is dead the minute it grows.
The follicle is alive. The hair itself is dead. It's a collection of dead cells.
I think it's good to deal with dead hair as opposed to other dead things.
Yeah, I mean it's I could have Bob's job.
All right, that went just down the strangest squirrel path that I've ever seen. I have a guest scheduled for today, but he has a funeral to go to today. And at last word, they were on their way to the graveyard. So he may show up, and if he doesn't, or if he does, we'll have him join in the conversation, and we'll switch gears to what I wanted to talk about with him. And if he doesn't, then I'll reschedule him, and we'll have him again some other time.
It is a problem. Death really interferes with a lot of things.
I understand.
I just don't see why people are so rude when they die. Like when my dog died last week, it was pretty inconvenient. I mean, she could have really picked a better time.
Yeah, and because the whole world rotates around just for you.
It does, and
the sad part is, I think he believes that, Robert.
Think Free says, tell you, Mac, about Locks for Love.
Oh, yeah, I know about that.
You know, actually, here's some information for Think Free, though. They sell the majority of the hair that comes in is not used, and it's sold to other wig manufacturers for them to use. So people think that they're getting these Locks for Love for wigs to be made Kids for Cancer, but it's a very small percentage of that donation has any chance of going to that. We
really?
use other companies because they've actually been in trouble several times because they kind of misrepresent themselves, and they've gotten a lot of national press, and they get a lot of free hair, and hair is very valuable. But what they do is they deem it not acceptable for the wigs they're making, and then they'll sell the hair to another wig maker that has lower standards. And so
why don't you just make a deal with all the hair salons in town to pick up their castaway hair at the end of the day?
Well, it's not castaway hair. You have to, when you're gathering hair, it has to be gathered in a particular fashion. It can't just be cut from a ponytail like it sounds. It's got to be so long, and it's got to be healthy and in good order, and all facing the right direction. Because if hair is facing different directions, the cuticle actually has a texture.
Hair facing the right direction. So you're telling me that on a strand of hair, there is a front and a back?
No, I'm telling you there is a upside down and a right side up. Hair is actually barbed. If you were to look at it under a microscope, and Bob probably knows this, it's kind of barbed. And if those are facing the other way, they catch. And so it gets tangled and matted. And so it's pretty particular how you have to handle this stuff.
Look at that. We've got an expert on here.
I know.
I'm amazed.
That's right. And if we could just get, somebody.
I might have owned hair salons just a little too long for my manliness.
If we could just maybe get the hair murderer, and then we'd have an expert here on hair and DNA and all of that.
I'm sorry, I'm good at what I do.
No, don't be sorry. I just have to tell you, this has been the most interesting 7 minutes of my life. I just have to tell you.
Hey, Mac,
and this was not what was on my mind today. So this is such a nice break from the normal programming.
Hey, Mac, here's what makes this. You'll appreciate this point. I am going to sell this hair that I'm working on tonight, probably for $800 on top of the cost of the hair to the client. So that's where because it's big money.
So it does end up back kind of in the hands of the mafia.
Well, if I'm the mafia, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's a very lucrative business. Each strand of hair goes for about $4.75. And
I felt bad because I sell beer by the bottle. I mean, he sells hair by the strand. Yeah. Man, I got to tell you, that's a good business. Can you teach me how to do that? Could you teach me
I've actually thought about paying people to do that, so I no longer actually have to do the groundwork.
You could get like a whole bunch of short Vietnamese women and put them in like a sweatshop.
Well, that's what most hair companies do, which is why it's not the same quality as the person that actually cares that it's good quality hair.
Okay, well then get Chinese. Get Bavarian.
This seems like an incredibly racist conversation, Mac.
No, it's not. I'm just saying there's a group of people out there who need regular work.
Sure.
And they're good at they're doing stuff with their hands.
Well, I have enough business to keep me and my wife in a profitable margin there. I don't have enough to spread it out, nor do I want to grow that big. We actually did look at growing bigger.
We're down to about 12 minutes of the most interesting time in my life now. Just keep going. We'll get to the first break.
Yeah, well, I'm trying, Mac.
Meanwhile, across the plains of Iowa, here's the sound from our listeners.
I'm sorry.
Jesus, please help me. I don't want to hear any more about hair.
I'm pretty sure Mac goaded me into this conversation, and then I explained to him,
do I really
and then he mocks
this
me.
Much about hair.
Your topic was so great yesterday. It was amazing.
What was my topic yesterday?
Exactly.
Well, you hijacked the show yesterday, you and Frank.
It's because it was that bad.
No, we were talking about global warming.
Oh, we were talking about...
And why Ed Fallon's going to walk 3,000 miles.
And what did it have to do with anything from the pew?
From the global warming.
We don't even believe in global warming. Most Christians don't.
Well, we should. We should, because it's true. The Earth is getting warmer. What we don't agree on is why. The world is getting warmer because that's God's plan.
Well, the world
The
could go through
lefties think they can, blame somebody.
The world may be and may not be going through cycles of weather change. That doesn't necessarily mean it's man affected. However, I do think we should be good stewards. But Ed didn't really want to talk about his faith. He wanted to talk about a rally supporting Ed.
Right. And I wanted to talk about his faith.
Yeah, and he didn't want to talk about that.
And then
at all.
along comes Frank, and I love Frank. Frank, Frank could be a good talk show host.
I've tried to get him on here.
He really would.
He would.
If he could get somebody on that he'd differ from a little bit, like Bradshaw and I used to be, he'd do a good job.
They couldn't get Bradshaw.
Unlike
'cause they
talking
just yell
about
at each
hair
other.
with Father Tattoo, with the listeners go,
Hey, you asked me about
Jesus,
Chris
why are we
Rock
talking
made a whole
about hair?
movie about
Please,
it.
Jerry.
Millions of
Please,
people
Jesus,
watched
make
it, so
him
there's
stop.
somebody interested.
Yeah.
I'm sure
Jesus, please make him stop.
Mac's
talking
just
about hair. I'm
mad
going
because
crazy.
all the women now know I'm an expert at hair.
Yeah.
And now they have.
He's gonna get
Yeah,
a lot more
yeah.
Facebook
The
I can just
female
see it
listeners
now.
are going to be way more excited about Father Tattoo.
I can just see it now on the chat. So, Father Tattoo, what would you do with a turned-in curl on my left thing on my back of that goes the wrong way and is split end? Split ends.
Well, you
I
gotta
know
cut
that about hair.
You got to cut the split ends off.
Split ends, I know
those
that.
need to be trimmed off. And if you feather all that right, you won't have all the curls.
Feather?
I know nothing about this, so
Feather.
this is
Feather.
interesting.
Yeah, when you cut, there's different ways of there's different ways of cutting, and you can cut in different directions, and it creates a different texturing, which keeps away the volume.
You know, I
which
have
is
to
the
tell
curl.
you that I go to a professional, what do they call them? Cosmetologist.
yeah.
I go to a professional cosmetologist. You know who she is. She's top of the line.
Mm-hmm.
She's cut my hair for a decade, and never once have I ever heard the word feather come out of it. Mac, would you like a feather cut today?
feathered, and it's
Oh, feathered.
yeah, not feather, feathered. And there are people now with the feather extensions, but those are kind of going out of style. So if you're
Yeah,
thinking about feather
that's-
extensions,
I was concerned about that.
th-
really.
it's over.
If you'd like to make a comment in this show, please email us at
Somebody call
wishIwasbald at
I'm just about there.
theviewfromapew.com.
You know, Mac, I don't go to barbers anymore.
I don't ever see you without your hat, so I don't know what you look like. Are
It's
you a
pretty-
chrome dome?
It's pretty bald up there.
Is it?
Yeah,
Okay.
so I don't need to do that anymore.
All right. Well, now with just a few minutes left in the segment, let's try to revive somewhat of a conversation about faith and values, which is what this should be. I'm so sorry for Chris Roloff. You know he's up in Boone right now, just banging his head on the wall, going, "I can't believe I gave this guy's own show."
I bet that's probably more true than we like to admit.
And Ron's trying to stop him and holding him and holding. Chris is just crying and crying. I can't believe I've got my career.
I would
in my
like to
hands
see
with this
Ron trying to hold
maniac.
Chris. I think that would crush Ron.
All right. Hello to Jill up in Boone. All right. The Arkansas legislature this past week has passed a law which they call the heartbeat law, and it is the first in the nation that says you cannot, under any circumstances, have an abortion after the 12th week. Now, I would imagine there are some circumstances with the life of the mother, but I don't think
Yes,
that's
what I read.
yeah.
There are.
Yeah.
I thought it was rape. I thought it was in the case of rape.
Nobody lets a
rape.
rape child. Seriously? Rape at 12 weeks? Nobody carries their child for 12 weeks after being raped and then all of a sudden decides they don't want it.
I would,
Really?
I would agree with your logic there, but that is one of the things they're allowing in the case of rape. You can wait longer. So I don't understand the logic behind that.
Is this genocide that we are doing to the unborn children? Is this like the Holocaust? Is God sitting in heaven looking down at us going, "What are you doing? You just killed a president. You just killed the man that I gave the ability to cure cancer to. You just killed one of the greatest Samaritans I've ever put on the earth. What are you? I have a plan here. You simply cannot." Or does God know that you're going to abort that child? Now, there's a good question. We'll talk about that when we come back today. I'm J. Michael McCoy, and if I haven't told you lately, thanks for listening. I do love this job, and I couldn't do it without you. Remember, it's The Truth Project every Thursday, 11:45 to 12:45 at Incredible Pizza, 86th and Douglas in Urbandale. It costs nothing if you don't want to eat. If you want to eat, it's $8, whatever the buffet is. Next week, week 6. Why did Darwin's theory get blown out of the water in 1954? Bob, you know. Do you know Father Tattoo?
Nope.
I'll share that little bit of tidbit with you, and then we'll talk about Arkansas's latest abortion law and should it be applied here in Iowa or where you live, live on KTIA.
Lead, owner, and general manager of Service Legends. I brought along a couple of the home comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wondershide.
I'm administrative manager
I'm the senior technician.
from Service Legends.
It seems like every good thing, when you feel it to the bone that it's good, there's a lot of hard work put behind it. I don't think that you can fake it and have it turn out good.
You know, if we seem like, okay, that's just weird, it's just a furnace, why would you believe so deeply in a furnace? It's not just that, you know, we want to show the world that you can have good service.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be, it's your home.
You know, it's built into our daily trainings, it's built into our culture, that we're gonna do whatever it takes to have each client say they love us, period.
That's why we spend all the hours in the training that we do. And if we guarantee it's going to be a good experience for you, or else it's free, what type of work do you think we're going to do?
There is a guarantee.
Temperature selection guarantee, fixed rider it's free guarantee, comfort guarantee, best value guarantee. All of these guarantees hold us accountable to ensuring that we exceed your expectations. And if for whatever reason we'd fail and we can't make it right, we guarantee all of those guarantees with a 100% money back guarantee.
I mean, if you don't think that your technician can fix it right, are you gonna say that to a client? No.
You don't have to worry about having a technician come to your house.
We drug test, background check all of our team members. We put safe people in your home. Each and every one of our service techs, 400 hours a year in training.
You tell it the minute they walk in the door. They know what they're doing, they've done their homework, and they actually truly care about what you want.
Because at the end of the day, you're the person that makes sure I have a job.
They're gonna be listening. They're gonna wanna know what your challenges are. Then they're gonna come and give you options, and you get to choose.
If I'm there to help and I make it easy and painless, I did my job right that day.
Well, when it comes to your comfort, safety, and your family, you know, you don't necessarily go buy the most expensive, but you get the most bang for your buck.
Oh, it's worth it, because there's a lot of people that will find a way to get it to work right now and then leave and then come back, charge you again, and the cycle just repeats itself. So when I'm out there looking at the furnace, I want to find why it failed today. How can we change the part today with something that you're not going to have to worry about? Is it worth changing the part today? I mean, you can put a lot of money into a furnace. I can fix parts all day. There's good job security in that for me, but is it the right thing for you?
I get a lot of the phone calls of after the technicians are there. They're just in awe. They're like, wow, you guys are great. I mean, I don't even know what to say. You guys are great. Everything you did was perfect. It was great.
Keep going though, I like this.
Just give us a try. I'm gonna take all the risk.
I've got the time to make this right. I've got the support to make it right.
Just check us out.
And if you don't see the value in what we do,
I mean, fixed rider, it's free or 100% money back.
enough said.
We've got questions. You've got the answer. Join the conversation. It's your voice we want to hear. So call 855-244-0077. Now, here's J. Michael McCoy.
"21 minutes after the hour, live here on The View from a Pew on 99.3 KTIA, powered by Webcast One Live.com. And if you're here right now listening, especially after that last segment, I really thank you. I know you have lots of choices that you can choose from, and you can push that button and nobody ever knows it. But for some reason, God has led you to us today and hopes that you're going to get a nugget of wisdom. You're longing to hear something. Your heart is hurting. You want to know that the world is more right than it is wrong, and you hope that God can help you feel that restoration of life and your relationship with his son, Jesus Christ, through a simple radio program. I can't do that. Bob can't do that. Father Tattoo can't do that. Only God can do that. And we are his tools. We are his servants. We are his instruments of change. And we are very humbled and blessed to be that in his life. All right, we're going to start talking about the Arkansas bill called the Heartbeat Bill, when finally a state in the union has limited the time and the window that a pregnant woman can choose to kill her baby. But before we get to that, I want to go to Frank, who's hanging on the phone. Maybe that's what Frank wants to talk about. I'm not sure.
Yeah, a little bit.
All right, good. You're live on the air, Frank.
Well, Mac, at the risk of causing you to lose your mind, I'll just say, as someone who's had longer hair since the 1970s, my knowledge is that when they give a normal haircut, they hold the hair out, and they hold the fingers at a 90-degree angle. When they feather a cut, they hold it at a 45. Can Dan chime in on that?
Is that Dan's shaking his head? Yes.
Okay.
That's right.
I called to kind of touch on this subject because I talked.
The feathered hair or the abortion?
Abortion.
Oh, good. Thank you.
I was on Dan's show last night. We had a good conversation about this subject, but I think
once again, feathered hair or abortion?
Abortion.
Okay, good. Thanks.
Yeah, but your opening comments kind of led me down the road that I would like to make a statement of my conviction. I do not believe in predestination. I believe that predestination to me is winter's coming. Choice is, do I choose to wear a coat or not? For example, I do not believe that Judas was predestined to do what he done. I believe Judas had a choice in the matter, and he just happened to be the vehicle in which God used. He knew what he was going to do. So when you kind of started out, are children predestined to be aborted? I would say no.
Okay, but in all fairness, you don't think there's any predestination. It's not just unborn children. You don't think there's any.
No predestination whatsoever.
Okay.
So but my point is that we're given choices as humans. We're given parameters. We're given boundaries by God, and within those boundaries, we have free choices within those boundaries. And I would simply say that a woman, like you said a couple of days ago, a woman has a choice. Abstinence is the best way not to get pregnant. And I just feel like there's too much using abortion as birth control.
Yes, you know that you and I agree on that. I lost a good friend over the fact she's a female and she's a liberal, but I didn't care. I loved her anyway, and I lost her as a friend because I once said online that you do have a choice, girls. If you don't want to have a baby, don't have unprotected sex. And she just popped. I mean, she called me every name in the book, including every bad one, and said that I was a woman hater and that I was throwing the advancement of the humankind back into the Stone Ages. No, I'm not.
Well, as I told Dan last night, as someone who feels as passionately about the abortion issue as Ed Fallon feels about global warming, I'm not likely to chain myself to an abortion clinic to block the way of somebody trying to get one.
Okay.
I think this is something that has been let out of the bag. I don't think there's necessarily any way to really turn back on it completely, but I do think if we're going to try to limit and restrict our rights to own a firearm, at the minimum, I think we could apply those same restrictions towards an abortion. How about a waiting list? How about a background check? How about a cooling off period? How about women felons not having the right to get pregnant or have an abortion? I mean, apply the same crap they try to apply to guns, and just turn it around and ask them why they can't apply that same thing towards something that the Constitution guarantees you a right to own a firearm. You have an unfettered right to own a firearm, but yet this decision, Roe v. Wade, that come as a thinly veiled right to privacy, which appears nowhere in the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence, they think this is we can't burden a woman, undue burden a woman. This is ridiculous.
Frank, I always enjoy listening to you. I always tell a woman, and gosh darn it, I think I'm a nice guy. I've got a beautiful wife that I love and two daughters that mean the world to me. I have a daughter-in-law who is a part of my life. I have a granddaughter. I mean, I've never been accused of being a sexist or whatever it is. Yeah, I've just never been accused of that. But I've had thousands of female employees over the course of my lifetime in business, and I've never had one of them call me a chauvinist. But as soon as I stand up and say, if you think you have the choice of what you're going to do with your body, go out and try to sell it.
Well, let me ask you one logical question that I've never had anybody give me a good answer to in this debate. Why does not the man have anything to say about this? If you and your wife opened up a mutual checking account and you put $100,000 in and your wife put $100,000 in, what should give either party exclusive right of that account? And when the semen and when the sperm and the egg come together, what gives either party the right to destroy that embryo?
Possession. Possession is 9/10 of the law. Not right, not wrong, Frank. It's just what it is.
Well, it's sad to say, but that's how some people view it.
Yeah. All right, Frank. I appreciate you being
Well,
on the radio.
Hold on.
I
want to attack Frank here for a second.
Okay, this is the second portion of the whatever Mac wants to talk about.
Yeah, this
now
is whatever
in charge
Father
of
Tattoo
Father
wants to talk about.
Tattoo.
So I'm just
the
going to run
opinions of Father Tattoo are not that of KTIA, Webcast One, Bob Bettendorf, or anybody else.
Okay.
Or Bob Montserrat.
Yeah, I got to ask you. So you said you thought Judas had a choice.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm reading just casually here in John 13. Okay? And there's this whole section called "One of you will betray me," and it says, after saying these things, Jesus was troubled in his spirit and testified, "Truly, truly, I say to you, one of you will betray me." And the disciples looked at one another, uncertain of whom he spoke. And one of his disciples, whom Jesus loved, which was John, we know that's how he refers to himself, was reclining at the table at Jesus' side. So Simon Peter motioned to him to ask Jesus, of whom was he speaking? "Lord, who is it?" Jesus answered, "It is the one whom I give this morsel of bread when I have dipped it." And so when he had dipped the morsel, he gave it to Judas, the son of Simon Iscariot. Then after he had taken the morsel, Satan entered into him. Jesus said to them, "What you are going to do quickly." No one at the table knew why he said this to him. Okay? At what point did Judas have a choice in any of that, Frank?
Because Judas was no different than any of those disciples that were chosen. He had a lot of talent.
Okay, I'm not arguing that he had talent. At what point did Judas have some great choice to make? It was cold outside, and what point did he decide not to put his jacket on?
He had a natural skill and a natural talent towards money, and at some point...
Well, he was a thief.
He was a thief.
Okay, that's not a skill in my book.
He was the treasurer for that small group of people.
And he stole from it. I mean, Bernie Madoff has a natural skill for money, but that doesn't make them a good guy.
Disciples, when Judas got up and left, they didn't know. They had no idea what he was going to do. They had no idea he was going to betray Jesus.
Well, but that's just because the disciples didn't understand the gravity of the situation.
For all they knew, he might have been going, to get something for the feast.
Frank, first of all, I think that's unreasonable. Okay, we just read that Jesus said, "Hey, the one that I give this piece of bread dipped in wine and tinction." By the way, if you ever want to debate tinction, but he gives it to Judas. At what point did Judas at that point have a choice? Could he have
Judas had already made his decision prior to that.
No, because that's when he goes and makes his deal.
Okay, Dan, listen. You're trying to imply that because Jesus handed Judas this bread that he was instructing Judas to go betray him, and that's just not biblical.
That is absolutely not what I'm trying to imply, and that is exactly what happened. Jesus gave Judas the bread. He said, "This is the guy that's going to do it." He was created to do that.
No.
Frank?
Jesus, listen, this is where I'll try to... explain myself a little better.
I hope you do, because right now you're just absolutely contrary to Scripture here. I mean, I've read it for you, Frank. Jesus said, one of you is going to betray me. And he goes, "Here's the one that I give this piece of bread to." He gives the piece of bread, and then Satan enters him.
Christ knows the beginning from the end.
He
knows ultimately what everybody's going to choose. But that doesn't mean that he ordained it.
Well, of course he ordained it. How Jesus came to die. Do you agree?
So Jesus says, "I came that none should perish and all should come to repentance except for Judas"?
More or less. I guess if that's the way you want to read that. You're trying to characterize me, and I'm not going to let you do that. What I'm saying is in Isaiah and in Daniel and everywhere else that Jesus is paraphrased here, or Jesus is prophesied about, we know he's going to die. We see it in Isaiah. So Jesus came. Yeah, I'm saying that God chose Judas to be the fall man. Yeah, I that's absolutely what I'm saying.
Well, that flies right in the face of Christ saying that I come to die to give everybody a chance at salvation.
Okay, then why do some people go to hell, Frank?
Pardon?
Why do some people go to hell?
Because these people have made their choice.
Okay, and why do people make that choice? I mean, if the attributes of God are made plain to them, who in their right mind would make a choice not to choose heaven?
A simple question. It says that Christ hardened Pharaoh's heart.
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
It actually says God hardened. We were talking about Elohim here, but yeah.
Why is it the same sun in the sky can melt butter and harden brick at the same time?
What?
Why is it that the sun in the sky...
We just transferred from God to melted butter and bricks.
Hang on.
I'm not following you. Whatever you're doing here, I'm not tracking.
Well, try to. I'll speak a little slower.
Speak slower for me. Talk to me like I'm a 6-year-old.
Okay. The sun in the sky that heats our planet.
Mm-hmm.
That same sun can melt butter on a sidewalk.
Yeah.
And at the same time harden brick. How is that possible?
How is that possible? One has a melting point and one has too much water.
Because it's the elements of what makes up what's being heated. Correct?
Okay.
The life experiences, the upbringing, the education of Judas, of anybody.
Judas had the best education in the world. He sat next to Jesus.
So did a lot of people. Peter did
No. Only 12 people sat with Jesus and got the instruction that Judas got. Only 12 men, Frank, in all of history. And every other one of those guys died for Christ or was exiled for him.
Judas never totally gave his heart to the Lord. He was in it to be...
Where do you get that?
All right, hold on. Time out, Frank. Hold on. Okay, I'm up against a hard break on the network. Let me go do this, and I'll let you two kids continue when we come back.
I don't want to continue more. Frank, thanks for the call.
No, don't hang up on it. I want this conversation to continue because whether you like it or not, Frank's got a point.
He doesn't have a point.
He does have a point.
Okay.
Bob, how you doing over there?
Oh, just great.
Because a little earlier I heard you. Please help me get out of this. I just can't handle this conversation. We're coming back live here on Fridays that are 15% more fun on KTIA.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Drug and alcohol addiction slowly steals a person's identity, tearing away pieces of their life little by little until one day it seems like the hope of a happy future is gone and there's no chance of getting it back. Here at St. Gregory Retreat Centers, we can assure you that there is hope. Our unique approach to recovery begins with the understanding that the dysfunction and damage caused by addiction can be overcome, not just dealt with. Don't let another day go by. Call St. Gregory today.
The dawn of a new era begins.
Well, hi, I'm Rob Spearman. I'm a broker owner of RE/MAX Real Estate Concepts in Des Moines, Iowa. Give us a call if you're looking at buying or selling a home, or if you're having trouble on your mortgage payments or looking to purchase foreclosures, we have the agents to help you, experienced, outstanding agents. Our office number is 515-276-2872. Or if you'd like to look at homes, go to our website, homeconnectusa.com.
Whether you're 10, 25, 50,
We're the ones in the pew, not pulpit. Come on now, let's reason together. The phone lines are open, so call 855-244-0077. Now, here's J. Michael McCoy.
22 before the top. Salem Radio Network News. And then Michael Mudloff and True Blue from Westkirk Presbyterian Church here in Urbandale, Iowa. At some point, we may get to the conversation on the Arkansas heartbeat bill. That's my intention, because we really only talk about what I want to talk about on this show. But for the meanwhile, Father Tattoo and Frank are...
You know, for saying you forgive a guy, you certainly hold a grudge.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, listen, I'm not out to tear anybody's faith apart. I'm trying to build...
Frank, you're not. Here, I want to correct one thing, though.
Just put the camera on somebody. Put the camera on you.
Okay, I will do that. I want to correct one thing here, though, Frank. I said something wrong. Judas made the deal before Passover for 30 pieces of silver.
Yes.
He hadn't pulled the trigger on the deal, but he made it. So I want to make sure that I'm not...
Okay.
I'm not in error there.
Put the guest camera on you.
Let me
there
say,
we go.
Let me say
Good
again,
job.
lively debate among Christians I love. Okay, so I don't want Dan to think in any way, shape, or form I think any less of him for disagreeing with me, or if I disagree with him. We're brothers in Christ, and I think this is fine debate. I only want to say, to finish up my point, I guess, is that Judas loved God, but he loved himself more. And he did not fully understand Christ's duty for coming to this earth. Christ said, "For this hour I come. I came for this hour. I came to die." Okay? So Judas wanted to blow that mission up because he didn't want his Savior to die. He thought that Jesus was going to set up a kingdom on earth, and he was jockeying, just like the other disciples, to be his right-hand man. He wanted to be the treasurer. He wanted to be whatever. He had his own design. So he was trying to substitute his will for Christ's will, for God's will.
That's right.
That's the essence of my point. I think he could have used any of the other disciples. Had God known that they were going to be the one, he would have used them. It didn't have to be Judas. It could have been any of them. But Judas just happened to be the one.
Webcast One Live.
Go ahead.
Oh no, Max trying to answer. He's on queue. We can bring him online here in a minute. Frank, I'm going to point out one other verse to you here, and I don't have it, and I don't have it brought up. I was trying to find it on Bible Gateway really quick, but I had another phone call come in. Jesus says that he has lost none who the Father has given him, except the one that was chosen from the beginning of the world to betray him. That's Judas. The problem with Judas, I don't care that you don't believe in predestination. I do. But the problem with Judas is very clearly a vessel being used for a very particular purpose, much like Pharaoh, whose heart was hardened. God physically hardened his heart. Pharaoh didn't have a choice to soften his heart.
But why does God's brilliance and glory and mercy warm one man's heart and will utterly harden another?
That is a great question. I suggest you ask our Lord and Father when you get up there, because I don't have that answer. I'm not trying to claim I have God in some kind of box where I know everything there is to know about God. I don't
really?
know. Yeah, I am. I'm not.
Hey, somebody record that, please. Somebody say that again.
I'm not going to say that again. But I'm not trying to claim.
I got it on tape.
Yeah,
so
you got it on
matter.
tape. I don't claim to know everything. I'm not trying to claim to know everything.
There it is again. That's 2 in a row. We get 3. The cock's going to crow.
But the reality is we see God making decisions about people, whether we like that or not. Pharaoh's heart was hardened. Judas Satan was allowed to enter him, and he did something awful.
But did God die for Pharaoh? Did God die for Judas?
I don't think so. I think the blood of Christ is sufficient for all, but not applied to all. I think we can look into like Ephesians 2 and see the order of Salutis.
Then let me ask you a logical question. Why did God allow Satan? Why didn't he just blot him out?
That's a great question. Again, I don't know why God certainly could have.
Own perfection. See, if God would have blotted out Satan,
he's the one that's got God in a box.
The angels would have feared God out of fear. They would have served him and loved
him. But no, you're making God something that I don't think you can answer that question, Frank. There doesn't have to be an answer.
What I'm trying to express to you is, there has to be in free will. There has to be choice.
I don't believe in free will, though, Frank. We've discussed this. I'm a Calvinist, buddy. I don't think free will. I think the free will is to respond within the confines of one's nature, and I think the fallen nature of man is the will is exercised to sin and sin alone.
Well, obviously we're going to disagree on that point. I mean, I think we were all created to serve God. The fact that some of us just chose not to do so. I
don't agree with that either. What about the parable of what does the pot have to say to the potter? Why did you create me? Some vessels are created for honor and some for dishonor. We see these things in the Bible. Why is there so much flying in the face?
Using that logic, you could imply that God created sin, and sin has no.
You know what? Here's the problem with what you're trying to imply is that God couldn't have stopped sin. He didn't. He allowed it. I don't know why he allowed it.
According to Scripture, iniquity. There's no explanation for iniquity.
Okay.
So to defend it, to try to even give explanation to it, in essence, you're defending it.
Who's trying to defend it?
If you could find an excuse for sin, sin would see. Sin would cease to be sin if you could find some reason or some excuse for it.
I don't agree with you there. Sin is anything that's outside of the nature of God. You know what? You know why God doesn't lie? Because he's not a liar.
In a perfect world with a perfect creator, where did the concept of sin come from?
That's a great question for God. I mean, that's the problem. Where did Satan come from? God clearly knew Satan would fall. I mean, I don't think any Christian argues that God doesn't know the beginning from the end, right?
Yes, God.
Okay, so if he knew the beginning from the end, why wouldn't he just abort Satan rather than have him born into creation?
Because he's so perfect in his mind, he couldn't even skip over him, even though nobody else knew.
Oh, Frank, I love you, brother. Thanks for the call.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
You got rid of Frank?
I got rid of Frank.
What are you going to do for the rest of your show?
That's a good question. I think I'm going to let a professional take it from here.
Anybody else online? No?
No, they dropped off, and that's unfortunate. I wanted to hear if that caller wants to call back, I really would like to hear what they had to say.
Yeah, I'm sorry it took so long to get you on. I was trying to mix you into, you could have a three-way conversation, but if that caller would call back, that'd be great. All right, 3:47. And we are just a couple minutes away from a break, and then we'll come back. The thing I wanted to discuss today was my passionate subject, and Arkansas has done it once again to make me think about it. Arkansas, the first state in the union to pass what is noticeably called the heartbeat law. It is a dog hair short. Oh, there we talk about hair again. It's just short of the personhood bill, which is what most far-right conservatives, pro-life people would like to have. And that is that the moment there is a determination that a woman is pregnant, that is considered a person. And that person has all the rights of the Constitution of the United States as a person. That is the bill that most far right-wingers would want us to pass. But the bill in the middle that seems to be somewhat popular, that is kind of making its way around different state houses, is called the heartbeat bill. And even though I would debate someone on this, and I think you would too as a scientist, they know that absolutely unequivocally that if a woman is carrying a child somewhere around the 12th week, the heartbeat is absolutely detectable, sustainable, and it's consistent. I've always heard that happens in about 8 days.
Yeah, we've had some people saying that here. I'm not sure if that's accurate, but
I know at 7 weeks we were able to hear the heartbeat on ours, but I don't know about days. I've seen signs that have that. The problem with a lot of these is there's a lot of misinformation going around. And I'm not saying it's on our side or their side, but it's hard to tell what's the most accurate, I suppose.
Well, we're going to try to get into that conversation. Again, if that caller would like to call back in, we'd love to hear from you. 348. Salem Radio Network News comes at the top of the hour, and then Michael Mudloff, Pastor Michael Mudloff, the great, from True Blue at Westkirk Presbyterian. That's coming up live on 99.3 KTIA, powered by WebcastOneLive.com.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Drug and alcohol addiction slowly steals a person's identity, tearing away pieces of their life little by little until one day it seems like the hope of a happy future is gone and there's no chance of getting it back. Here at St. Gregory Retreat Centers, we can assure you that there is hope. Our unique approach to recovery begins with the understanding that the dysfunction and damage caused by addiction can be overcome, not just dealt with. Don't let another day go by. Call St. Gregory today.
Well, hi, I'm Rob Spearman. I'm a broker-owner of RE/MAX Real Estate Concepts in Des Moines, Iowa. Give us a call if you're looking at buying or selling a home, or if you're having trouble on your mortgage payments or looking to purchase foreclosures. We have the agents to help you, experienced, outstanding agents. Our office number is 515-276-2872. Or if you'd like to look at homes, go to our website, homeconnectusa.com.
Whether you're 10, 25, 50, 80 years old and beyond, everyone needs to live within their means. I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America. For almost a quarter of a century, we've helped people of all ages learn to manage their personal finances to benefit them far into the future. When problems arise, we've got the experience you need to make those debt problems go away. Got financial problems? Call Consumer Credit of America.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
We've got questions. You've got the answer. Join the conversation. It's your voice we want to hear. So call 855-244-0077. Now, here's J. Michael McCoy.
3:50, before the top. Bob Montserrat, the cat of the hat, watching the chat. He's also on the Mayo Clinic website, which I think is a acceptable source. What does it say about when a woman is, quote-unquote, officially pregnant?
Here it says that you'll probably undoubtedly spend the months ahead wondering how your baby is growing and developing, what does your baby look like, and so forth. Fetal development typically follows a predictable course. Find out what happens in the first trimester. It says week 1 and 2, getting ready. It might seem strange, but you're not actually pregnant the first week or 2 of the time allotted to your pregnancy. Yes, you read that correctly. Conception usually occurs about 2 weeks after your last period begins, and it talks about how to calculate your due date based on that. And then it talks about fertilization, how that occurs. People can read that if they want to know. Talk about the sharing of chromosomes, 46, 23 from you, 23 from the father. That determines everything about your baby when you share that. Implantation, by the time it reaches the uterus, the rapidly dividing ball of cells, now known as the blastocyst, has separated into 2 sections. And that group will become the embryo. So it also says placenta, which will nourish your baby throughout the pregnancy, also begins to form.
When is that?
That is, they didn't quite, week 4. Week 4. Week 5, the embryonic period begins. 5th week of pregnancy or the 3rd week after conception marks the beginning of the embryonic period. This is when the baby's brain, spinal cord, heart, and other organs begin to form. Embryo is now made of 3 layers. The top layer, the ectoderm, will give rise to your baby's outermost layer of skin, central and peripheral nervous system, eyes, inner ear, and many connective tissue. Your baby's heart and primitive circulatory system will form in the middle layers of cells, the mesoderm. This layer of cells will also serve as the foundation of your baby's bones, muscles, kidneys, and much of the reproductive system. And that is in week 5.
All right. So I think it's fair to say that in week 3 to 5, we have a heartbeat, we have a spine, we have a brain, we have what would be called a visually and scientifically acceptable version of a human.
Let me keep going. Yeah. Week 6, the neural tube closes. Growth is rapid this week. Just 4 weeks after conception, the neural tube along your baby's back is closing, and your baby's heart is pumping blood.
Okay, that's week 6?
That says just 4 weeks after conception.
4 weeks.
On this.
Okay, 4 weeks.
It says the neural tube along your baby's back is closing, and your baby's heart is pumping blood.
Okay, so 4 weeks. You've got a heartbeat. We know you have a DNA that is unlike your mother's and unlike your father's. You have a specific DNA that only is you. By the way, am I correct in saying that only a human has a matchless DNA? Do you know if that's true?
Well, there's nothing other than humans that have that DNA.
Okay.
Because it specifically has the code of life.
So dogs don't have DNA?
They do have DNA.
Oh, okay.
No, every living creature will have DNA.
But it's a dog DNA?
Right. Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not human DNA. So they're unique for each living being.
All right. So that's whatever living being, not a plant.
There's DNA, plant.
There's a DNA in plant too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So Arkansas comes back and says, not personhood, but 12-week the heartbeat bill. And when are we ever going to figure this out? And I'll tell you where. I had this conversation just 5-6 days ago with Alex McFarland. No, it wasn't Alex. It was Isaac. Forget woman's right to choose. Forget birth control. Forget when there's a heartbeat, when there's a DNA. Just forget about all that. This is Satan. This is the accuser. This is the devil attacking God's own creatures. It has finally gotten to the point on the planet Earth that our ability to justify the death of another human being as unsurmountable. I mean, we've been doing it for a long time. Yeah, they're dumb. You know, let's go back to caveman days. Just dumb. Knock him off. I'm stronger than you are. I can beat you up. Then let's go back to the medieval days. Well, you don't believe the same thing that I believe in, so it's okay to kill you. And then let's go to the 1800s, and brother can kill a brother because they're fighting in the Civil War. And then it's okay for the government to kill somebody because the law was broken so badly. And then it's okay to kill somebody because they seem to be a witch. They seem to have special powers that people don't understand, so it's just as easy to kill them. And it's okay to kill your mom and dad when they get older because you put them in hospice, you're tired of dealing with them, so you load them up with morphine and you basically kill them. And for those of you that are in hospice, I love you. I love what you do. You're very important to this world, and I know you would take difference with that, and I respect you, but bottom line, that's what happens. When dad is just done and you're done dealing with dad and there's nothing more that can be done to dad, you ship dad off to hospice and load him up with morphine and slowly let him die. And you give him a little help, a nudge along the way. And now, since 1973, we have come to the last bastion of justifying death and murder. Man's destruction of God's creation. And that's called abortion. We now will reach into the womb of a woman and destroy that life because we don't like the gender. Because it comes in an inconvenient time. Because we didn't use birth control because I'm reckless. Because it's so much cheaper to have an abortion than it is to carry birth control. This is Satan. This is the accuser. This is whoever you want to call him. Finally, Bastion reaching around with his hands and putting them around God's neck and saying, see, I can now reach into the womb of a woman and kill your creation before it ever even comes out. I can justify hate. I can justify deceit. I can justify sin. I can justify lies. And now I can justify death. I have totally delivered sin in the longest, hardest, biggest, most dramatic way to humans. Devil 1, God 0. Is that it? Are you and I so of this world that we can't bring the kingdom down to earth and demand that God's law be followed? I'm not talking about whether you go on church on Sunday or how much tithe you give or whether you take communion or whether you get divorced. Can't we at least honor the life of an unborn child? Have we really become so godlike that we can justify that? Just as the serpent lied to Eve. No, God didn't mean that. That's not what he said. He's saying it again to women and men, and they're killing the unborn children. So this weekend, as you go to church and you spend time with your family and your friends and you enjoy life in the 21st century in the United States of America, do me one favor. For the unborn, for the unchurched, for all the young mothers to be, pray.
Sure can. Absolutely.